Okay, moving on to less exciting news. The Rise of Skywalker. I mean, God, man. Okay, so we saw the D23 footage where they pretty much did nothing but show what good Star Wars was. First of all, they're like, hey, you remember Kill the Past, Let It Die? You remember, how we haven't given you any original trilogy or prequel trilogy stuff at Galaxy's Edge? Well, look, now we need to market our movie. So remember all the great Star Wars? Remember all that great stuff? And then we move into, the Rise of Skywalker. I'm going to let you talk. Where are you at on it? And qualify anybody that's watching for the first time to kind of, I guess, give us your brief where you were with The Force Awakens to The Last Jedi to now, just kind of so people understand where you were to where you're at now.
All right. Despite I know a lot of people's opinion, I was on board for Force Awakens. I was on board. I was okay with it. It didn't necessarily invoke all of the truest, deepest feelings that I would have loved to have had from Star Wars, but it brought me back. It got me excited. And I actually had some interest in the new characters that they showed us. I wasn't thrilled with a lot of the way that they treated the original cast, but then again, I was willing to see where it went. And I was also excited to see where they went with the development and the arcs of the new characters that they introduced. The Last Jedi disintegrated all of that for me. It just wiped it all away. And not only that, but it almost retroactively made me feel just this sense of where are we with Star Wars? What does this mean? Nothing could ever take away my love of the original trilogy, because that is pretty much ingrained in who I am now as a person, having seen it at such a young, impressionable age and having such a deep impact on me, just as who I am and kind of the qualities that I enjoy about the original trilogy. But The Last Jedi just ripped away any kind of hope and trust that I had in what they were doing from the creative standpoint. I think it showed the true colors of the creative team that now is behind creating the sequel trilogy. And I do not trust them. I do not respect what they're doing. And I'm not excited. So,
and to be clear, you are not an angry man baby living in your basement, correct?
No, I'm not. No.
You're not intimidated by strong women.
No, actually, I'm really not. Surprisingly, no, I'm not. And that's the thing. And I can understand what they were trying to do, but the execution was so shoddy and disjointed and just patronizing and preachy. And I'm not for it. I'm all for uplifting people of all different types, but if you're at the same time trying to demote other people, whether that be original trilogy characters, whether that be making all the men in the series look like bumbling fools, to me that just undermines any sense of depth and meaning and truth to your story, to your work, to your art. If you want to uplift people, by all means, uplift everybody, uplift anybody, I don't care. But if you're going to undercut and undermine and kind of character assassinate the other people because you feel like in order to bring forth the best qualities of one person, you have to somehow insult or injure another, that's just the wrong way to approach it. So that at its core is what really got to me in terms of my trust of the brand at this point. But then again, at the same time, the storytelling was not well executed, in my opinion. Visually, I guess it looked fine. I wasn't that impressed. And in terms of the character arcs, we basically just saw a rehashing of everything we'd already seen all the characters go through. And that's kind of what, unfortunately, I'm expecting to see with The Rise of Skywalker, because where else, there's not really any room for these characters to have any other thorough arcs. So I'm not excited. I could definitely expand on a lot of those points, but I'm just not excited, and I would love for them to completely change my mind and shock me and surprise me, and I would love Star Wars and where it's going in terms of this sequel trilogy, but I just have a bad feeling about this. So.
Nice way to end it. That was perfect. As usual, perfect answer from you. And yeah, I agree with you. I mean, obviously everybody knows I was on board with The Force Awakens. I was excited. I was like, all right, where are we going to take this? And I did feel that there was I hate to use this word, but I do feel that I felt there was a subversion of expectations with The Force Awakens. And I was fine with it, because when I saw The Force Awakens for the first time, that fight scene in the snow with Rey and Kylo, when that lightsaber started moving, I just felt like Luke was going to be the one pulling it. It was going to be Luke to save the day, and of course it did. So I felt we were going to see more of Luke, and I felt like we were going to get reuniting of Han, Luke, and Leia, and none of that happened. And the whole thing is people go, oh, people are they didn't get what they wanted. I didn't get what I wanted in The Force Awakens, but I was like, I have faith in the creative process. I believe there's no way that they're going to screw this up. I mean, this is the Star Wars sequel trilogy. There's no way. There's a reason why they had to kill Harrison Ford. And I understand that, he didn't want to be in it and he wanted to be, I get all that. Regardless of if Harrison wanted to be killed and he wanted to do away with Han, there's still a way that you could have dealt with that from a storytelling standpoint that could have honored the original trilogy. And so when I saw Han was, when they killed off Han, and I'm like, wait a minute, no reuniting of the original trilogy 3 or Lando. Okay, they have to have a good reason for why this happened. Where are they going to take Kylo? Because I felt like Kylo had a ton of potential after The Force Awakens. And now we're just like, I don't even know what happened in The Last Jedi,
I don't remember. Me neither. I don't remember what happened, and I don't care. I don't remember what happened other than the fact that they butchered Luke Skywalker, which is a whole other story, but I mean, sorry to interrupt. Okay.
No, it's okay. But I mean, just like this whole thing now, we've seen that we've seen the marketing with The Rise of Skywalker, and one of my big problems, and again, this is kind of a carryover from The Force Awakens too, but I hated Kylo taking his mask off. I hated it. Even in The Force Awakens, I hated it. And I've said this 100 times. All right, you want to take his mask off in The Force Awakens? Okay, I'll give you that. But in the end, when Rey slashes his face, I feel we should have never seen his face again. And when he shows up in The Last Jedi, he should have had his mask back on. And then we as the audience are going, what does he look like now? There's that sense of mystery, the same mystery we had with Darth Vader. And we don't find out what he looks like and how disfigured he is until the end of episode 9, because that would have been the thing that kind of drove his anger to, find Rey again and have another ultimate showdown. We didn't need to have a fight in The Last Jedi, but they did. Now the setup is to have him fight again. And in the marketing for The Rise of Skywalker, it's showing he's repairing his helmet. The helmet that you guys put all over the marketing to push the Force Awakens and all that. And now the mask is destroyed and he looks like John Travolta in the Last Jedi. He sounds like, why is John Travolta, dark side? I don't understand. But anyway, we've seen that he repaired the helmet, but now I see all these shots of him not having a helmet on. That fight with Rey that they show in that sizzle reel, he don't have his mask on. I'm like, oh my God. It's so frustrating. And did you see the whole thing with the dark side Rey or whatever, the little clip of her or whatever with the
Swiss Army knife lightsaber? I mean, yeah.
Yes. It's just I don't know what's gonna happen, and I don't care at this point. At this point, I've said this many times on the channel. I'm just looking for it to be as bad as possible so I can make fun of it. I mean, that's really all I can do at this point. You established a potential romance between Finn and Rey in The Force Awakens, and then you completely abandoned that entire story arc in The Last Jedi to create one for Rose and Finn. And now we've not even seen Rose in any of the marketing for The Rise of Skywalker, and Finn and Rey and Poe are all hanging out again. And it's like, this feels like a sequel to The Force Awakens.
Yeah.
not a sequel to The Last Jedi, but you told us we were all racist and sexist for hating on The Last Jedi, but you're kind of admitting that The Last Jedi was garbage and you're ignoring it. It's just, it's so weird. So I guess we're on the same page. And look, this is how it is with me and Kelly. We're pretty much almost always on the same page. So it's not like, but trust me, I got some videos with me and Uche Waneri. We're arguing like crazy. So trust me, we're going to have that. But Kelly and I don't really disagree on a lot. We usually see eye to eye on everything. And with The Rise of Skywalker, here's the thing, I'm going to have to go see it because I have to for the channel. Are you even going to go see The Rise of Skywalker?
Man, I don't know. See, I didn't
you
even
don't watch a lot of movies, so
I do, but I don't watch big movies a lot unless it's really well rated. Unless it does like across the board, like well, or sometimes divisive critic reviews can be a good sign too. But if it's panned critically, but now I don't even trust that anymore because
you like lesser known movies that are like
small movies. I do. I like independent movies and a lot of foreign films I find are still good because they haven't been taken in by this huge machine of.
Let me let everybody know this is a girl who doesn't care about getting on social media and getting all of her likes and retweets, and she watches small independent movies. She stays away from big budget movies. Unicorn, okay, unicorn.
Well, but I still love Star Wars. I still love a lot of Spielberg stuff, and I geek out over some big blockbuster things. Like Star Wars isn't like a little niche hipster movie, It's,
right, absolutely.
It's kind of a big deal. But I don't know because I didn't want to see The Last Jedi because from the first teaser I had a bad feeling about The Last Jedi.
That's right. You were way ahead of it because I saw the teaser. I'm like, whoa, Star Wars. So you didn't. You were ahead of me.
I had a sinking feeling. Because I remember it didn't give me chills and it didn't give me goosebumps. And even when, and I've been through this before, but I'm not a huge fan of the prequels. I respect them and I can totally see why people love them. But even in the prequels, there would be moments where I was like emotionally engaged and I would get goosebumps or chills depending on what the scene was and what the content was. And that's about films that I'm not a huge fan of. And pretty much with every teaser and trailer that's been out for Star Wars, I've gotten some kind of like, ooh, that's exciting because it's in that world that I love or in the galaxy that I love. For The Last Jedi, it was the first time I think I ever saw anything Star Wars related where I didn't have a good feeling. And like, not only didn't have a good feeling, I was like, ooh, no, oh dear, like red flags. Like, it's like, I don't know. It was just something was off and it just felt like a money grab. Even though I didn't know anything about the story, I was like, these aren't people that understand Star Wars and understand why it's important to people. And if they do, they want to invert that and make it important to different people for different reasons and take away what the established fan base already loves. And that's exactly what happened. Not that I had that like psychic intuition about it because I didn't have that level of insight, but I think that's kind of what the foreshadowing of my feeling was. And that's kind of how I feel now. So.
Yeah, well, you were ahead of the curve on that. And I always break this down, because I always talk about like Jeff from World Class Bullshitters. He was way ahead. He was the moment he walked out of the Force Awakens, he's like, Star Wars is dead. This is done. It's horrible. And a lot, even like Mahler, for instance, Mahler was fine with the Force Awakens, even. And so there's just different levels of discovering how bad it is. And so people always give me credit for being the leader of this whole movement. But like I said, man, there's people that were ahead of me like Jeff, and then even you were ahead of me in terms of like you caught it before The Last Jedi. It was after The Force Awakens. But once you saw the marketing for The Last Jedi, you're like, oh no, this is bad. And then there's other people that have reached out to me that told them like Solo was actually where, not that they hated Solo to the level of The Last Jedi, but it was like once they saw that and they were like, you know what? Disney really does not understand Star Wars on any level at any point, and so I get that, Solo, for instance, have you seen Solo?
I did see Solo. A good friend of mine convinced.
That's right. We talked about this. That's right.
And I did enjoy it. I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it. And I really don't remember much of what happened. I don't think it was necessary. I think they got some of the world building right. I enjoyed the tone and the visceral kind of feeling of the Star Wars world that we had from the original trilogy, where it felt like lived in, established planets and worlds and communities, and that was really cool. Some of the creatures, and I love practical effects, like well done practical effects are just like awesome to me. And that's another thing I'm really excited for in The Mandalorian, because that looks clearly like they're using a lot of practical effects, which I'm just like, yes, that's awesome.
Yep.
But yeah, the story, I don't really remember much of what happened with the story, and I wasn't blown away by it. I liked Rogue One better.
It wasn't like it wasn't world breaking. It didn't break things. I mean, the whole introducing his name though was really cringe. That was cringe. But wasn't this fundamental stuff like The Last Jedi that actually like broke canon for so much?
Right.
But yeah, I didn't.
Broke people's hope. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. So that's a good segue.
You can break canon, but do it in an interesting, tasteful, or meaningful way. One of those three is fine. But to break it in a way that is just so self-serving and sabotaging of people's pre-existing feelings, like you can't retroactively go back and tear people's connections away from them on purpose. That's just wrong. Like, these were loved characters and themes and stories, and to do it in that way that's just so I mean it's just like almost like a propaganda thing. I can't be on board with that. So I'm all for subverting expectations. I'm all for that. I love that. Some of my favorite films completely subvert all expectations and do it in a crazy, intense, just sometimes horrific way. But if it's well done, it doesn't matter. I respect it, and I'm there for it. But The Last Jedi, I mean, no, that's just not. And now I have a feeling that The Rise of Skywalker is probably just going to be a lot of them awkwardly trying to like navigate in this place where they realize they pissed a lot of people off, let a lot of people down, but they're also still like awkwardly trying to insert their feelings and their messages. So it's probably going to be really, I mean, if I can make one prediction, I think it's going to be really tonally all over the place. Yep. It's going to be hard for them to stick to. I mean, one thing J.J. Abrams does well is he does visuals well, and he can do, he can do a nice, polished, glossy, beautiful visual piece. But then in terms of the storytelling, I just think it's going to be a little bit all over the place. So.
Yeah, we're 100% on the same page.